Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Chicago Blackhawks, as some of the leadership in the Blackhawks organization has been upset with some of the moves made by Stan Bowman this offseason over the past couple of seasons. We'll be taking a look at that in this video. If you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. Let's take a look at the Chicago Blackhawks. So throughout my lifetime of watching hockey, the Chicago Blackhawks have been a dynamite team in the NHL. They have been the kryptonite to the NHL overall, winning plenty of Stanley Cups, but they had to get there through the draft back in the day. Remember Brent Seabrook, Duncan Keith, Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane, all those guys they had to draft in those first couple of rounds in order to become the legitimate modern day dynasty that they became. But now some of that leadership, now that the team has gotten older, the salary cap has caught up with them, now they don't like the fact that they have to revert back to that after some of their championships. And we'll be looking at that today. So, looking at the Blackhawks lineup, we're looking at their forward core. You've got Alexander Nylander, Jonathan Toews, and Dominik Kubalik on the top line. Nylander, you could argue, maybe not the top player. I think that Jonathan Toews would want to be playing with, but he's still a serviceable player. Dominik Kubalik, really solid player for the Blackhawks last season. He was a finalist for Rookie of the Year. He was really solid last year. And obviously, your captain, Jonathan Toews, we know how good he has been, but even he has started to slip off over the past couple of seasons. Now you look at the second line. You have Alex DeBrincat, Kirby Dach, and Patrick Kane. Now, Patrick Kane, we know the story with Patrick Kane. He's a NHL icon at this point for some of his celebrations and other stuff. We know how good Patrick Kane is. But then you look at Kirby Dach, former top 3 draft pick last year. And then you've got Alex DeBrincat, another first-round pick back in the day. So the Chicago Blackhawks are a different looking team in that top 6 than they were back in the day, because you got guys like Patrick Sharp up there, married Hossa. Like I said, salary cap, age, and just time in general has caught up with the Blackhawks. And this is what happens. And if I'm going to be honest, that top 6 really isn't that bad. Now we look at the bottom 6. And this is where things get a little bit weak, because you've got Matthias Janmark, who they got from the Dallas Stars. Dylan Strome down the middle. I think he's a solid piece for the Blackhawks. Brandon Peary, all right, he is a depth player, okay. Ryan Carpenter, David Kampf, and Zach Smith in your bottom 6. That's not the best bottom 6. Zach Smith is an aging player. He's not what he used to be. Ryan Carpenter, Peary, Janmark, David Kampf, you could argue 5 of those 6 guys in their bottom 6 could be in the American Hockey League for most teams around the NHL. So, yeah, that's a weak spot for the Chicago Blackhawks. There's no argument there. But again, because they're paying Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane so much money, this is what ends up happening, unfortunately. And we haven't even gotten to the defense, because, yikes, that's even worse. So we're going to look at Duncan Keith, Adam Boqvist on that top pair. Adam Boqvist is a very solid player for the Blackhawks. That was a very nice draft pick by Bowman back in the day when he drafted Boqvist. That was a solid addition. Duncan Keith continues to age, and he's another one. He's making a decent amount of money for what he provides to the team at this point. Now you look at the second pairing. You've got Calvin DeHaan and Connor Murphy. Again, 2 overpaid guys on their top 4, and that was some moves that Bowman made last season that people, including myself, were a little bit on the fence. I don't know if those are good moves for the Blackhawks. And then you've got Nick Seeler, who came over from Minnesota, and Slater Cuckoo from Tampa Bay, or Montreal. I'm not sure where he was last at, but that's a pretty weak defense system right there. That tops, you've got Boqvist and Keith, who are pretty solid, and then things just drop off dramatically from there. And again, Seeler and Cuckoo, I mean, those are AHL defensemen at this point. And then you look at the goaltending, which is even more interesting, because now you've got Malcolm Subban and Colin Delia moving forward, because you couldn't decide to keep Corey Crawford, and then you lose Robin Lehner, who was supposed to be the starter moving forward. So it's a tough situation for the Blackhawks. Now there may have been some of that on Leonard's end that he said, you know what, I don't really want to stay in Chicago, and you know what, if you're not, maybe what happened was Stan Bowman talked to him before the deadline and said, listen, if we can't get a deal done before the deadline, an extension, you're off. Or if we can get an offer for some draft picks and stuff, we're gonna have to trade you. And maybe Leonard was like, all right, that's fine. I want to test the free agent market and see what happens. Obviously, we know what happened with Leonard, the success that he had in Vegas this year, sending them all the way to the Western Conference Final. But now that leaves Chicago in a really tough spot because now they're down Crawford and Leonard, who was actually a pretty solid goaltending tandem last season. And now you have Delia and Subban, who are third or fourth goaltenders in most organization's pipeline. And the Blackhawks had plenty of opportunities to go after players in this year's free agency. You look at some of those top goaltenders: Braden Holtby, Jacob Markstrom, Thomas Greiss, Mike Smith, just anybody. But then again, comes up the issue. They have a little over $5 million in cap space, which hinders their ability. So Subban's out. Now, they could have signed Braden Holtby, and I think that's interesting. I think that would have been an interesting fit with him in Chicago. Obviously, though, he goes to Vancouver. Thomas Greiss goes to Detroit. Markstrom goes up to Calgary. Mike Smith stays in Edmonton. Devin Dubnyk, another name. He ends up going to San Jose. So the Blackhawks just, I guess Stan Bowman just figured, all right, we're going to go with Subban and Delia next year. So that's where it comes back to what I talked about in the beginning of this video, is the core of the Blackhawks is frustrated, and I think it got worse once Brandon Saad got traded to the Colorado Avalanche. I think that really ignited some of those Blackhawks players because they love having Brandon Saad in the locker room. And now that they traded him already to Columbus, they bring him back, and then they trade him out again. So I think the frustration is definitely there for guys like Jonathan Toews in particular, but even, Patrick Kane, Brent Seabrook, and Duncan Keith. And I hate to say it, those four guys, I think, are what's the anchor moving forward for this Blackhawks team. Some of you may disagree with that, but I got to be honest with you right now. They have to move forward. And Brandon Saad getting traded, as much as it sucks, and he's around $6 or $7 million in cap space, he just wasn't producing for what he's worth. And unfortunately, he gets dealt out. That's the business side of hockey, and it happens all the time. You may not like it, but at the end of the day, the Blackhawks guys, you know what? They haven't given Stan Bowman any reason to go and acquire more talent or to acquire a starting goaltender. What did they do last year to deserve that? Yes, they beat the Edmonton Oilers in the first round of the playoffs, but what does that really do? And it wasn't even the playoffs; it was the preliminary round. So, and then they got their butts kicked in the first round. So, let me know in the comment section down below, Blackhawks fans in particular, but other fans around the NHL. Let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think of the Chicago Blackhawks, some of the changes they've made over the past couple of seasons. They're in the midst of a rebuild, but I think the future is bright for the Blackhawks. The only real concern is goaltending. I don't know how I feel about their goaltending. Their defense is still a little bit lacking, and that forward depth, but you know what? There's always ways you could fix that. I like some of the core pieces they have in there. Guys like Boqvist, guys like Doc, DeBrincat. I think there's a bright future for the Blackhawks. It's just right now they're in a bit of a transition, and it's difficult to see that. So, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey and want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. Thank you so much for watching, and let's go Hawks.